We have all felt it, right? That sudden jolt of energy when you are under pressure, that feeling of being on high alert. Well, that's your body's ancient, incredibly powerful stress response system kicking into gear. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on this amazing biological machine and see exactly how it works. Because really, understanding it is the first step to managing it. I mean, think about it. Your heart starts pounding, your focus narrows, maybe your palms get a little sweaty. That's not just nerves or something vague happening in your head. No, it's a very real, very complex, and perfectly coordinated event happening deep inside you. So let's find out what actually pulling on all the levers. Alright, so here's our game plan for this video. First up, we'll look at how your brain sounds the alarm. Then we'll trace the chain reaction of the HPA axis cascade. That's the real engine room of the stress response. After that, we'll get into the effects of the main stress hormone, cortisol. And finally, we will see how your body has this clever little off switch to bring everything back into balance. Okay, let's start right where it begins in your brain. You see, stress isn't just some fuzzy feeling of being overwhelmed, it's actually a very precise biological process that fires up a powerful link between your nervous system and your hormones. So, let's dive into this. It honestly doesn't matter to a brain if you're facing a saber-toothed tiger or just a terrifying work deadline. To your brain, a threat is a threat, and that perception, that feeling triggers this whole neuroendocrine system. Basically, your nerves and your hormones talking to each other to get your entire body ready for action. Now, at the absolute heart of this response is something called the HPA axis. The best way to think of it is like a biological chain of command, a super precise and incredibly rapid communication network that's designed to get your body ready for, well, for anything. The HPA axis stands for the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Yeah, I know it's a total mouthful, but all you need to remember is that it's basically a constant conversation between three key glands. And together, they don't just control your reaction to stress, but also your mood, your immune system, and so much more. So, let's meet the key players in this drama. Up at the top, you have got the hypothalamus in your brain, that's the command center. It sends out the initial order. That order goes to the pituitary gland, which is right below it. Think of it as the master gland. It receives the message and then relays it through your bloodstream all the way down to adrenal glands, which are the front line troops sitting right on top of your kidneys. And this whole process works like a perfectly choreographed hormonal relay race. It starts with the hypothalamus releasing a chemical messenger called CRH. That's the first baton pass. CRH tells the pituitary gland to release its messenger called ACTH. That's second baton. And that hormone travels down to the adrenal glands, signaling them to release the final and most famous hormone in this whole chain, cortisol. Okay, so that final button, cortisol, has been released into your system. What does it actually do? Well, you can think of it as your body's number one alarm hormone. Once it's out, it triggers immediate and widespread effects all over your body. Yep, cortisol, it's the primary stress hormone. Its one and only job really is survival. It starts a whole cascade of changes throughout your body to make absolutely sure you have the energy and resources you need to handle a threat, either to fight or to flee from it. So, how does it get you ready? Well, first, it floods your bloodstream with glucose. That's sugar for quick energy, fuel for your muscles. It checks up your heart rate and blood pressure to pump that fluid, that fuel around your body faster. And maybe just as important, it tells all the non-essential system to take a break. Things like digestion and even your immune response are temporarily put on pause to conserve every last bit of energy for the crisis at hand. But this is where we start to see the double-edged sword of cortisol, especially when it comes to our immune system. Look, in a short term crisis, acute stress, dealing down the immune system to save energy is a brilliant move. It's smart. But when the stress becomes chronic, when it never turns off, that same system can go high wire, leading to the kind of low grade inflammation that's linked to a whole bunch of modern health problems. And this really highlights a critical point. Our stress system was designed for sprints, not for marathons. When it switched on all the time, that prolonged exposure to cortisol can have some serious consequences. It can mess with our memory, disrupt our sleep, and over time can even cause actual structural changes in parts of our brain. So, this all sounds pretty intense, right? But our bodies have an incredibly elegant solution to stop this system from just running wild. Let's take a look at the built in off switch that's designed to bring everything back to state balance. This off switch is called a negative feedback mechanism, and it's just a brilliant piece of biological engineering. To put it simply, the very hormone that's at the end of the chain reaction, cortisol, it also the signal to shut the entire system down. It's beautifully self-regulating. So here's how it works: as cortisol travels through your bloodstream, there are these special receptors in your brain that are constantly monitoring the levels. Once they detect that the cortisol levels are high enough, they send a message back up to the command center, the hypothalamus, that basically says, okay, we are good here, you can stop. The hypothalamus then cuts the first signal, the whole relay race ends, and the system powers down. And this quote really gets to the core purpose of the HPA axis. You know, it's not our enemy, it's this masterfully evolved system that's designed to help us adapt to whatever our environment throws at us. And at the end of the day, to help us survive. And this is a big challenge of our modern world. This brilliant system, which evolved to save us from physical predators, can tell the difference between a lion and an overflowing email inbox. The physical response is pretty much identical. The problem is our modern lives can keep that ancient alarm bell ringing way more often than it was ever designed for. So that really leaves us with a crucial question to think about it. Our stress response is ancient. It's hardwired for a world that, for the most part, doesn't exist anymore. So the real question is, how can we learn to work with this incredible system to help it adapt to the unique pressure of our modern lives? Drop a comment below, like and subscribe to the channel for more such content.